Okay, we are going to go through the answers to Chapter 10, quiz number 2. The final is tomorrow, so make sure you correct everything on this. Remember, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause it and write down what you need to. So number 1 is to find the volume. So all you should need to do is multiply the length, the width, and height in your calculator. And if you round it, you should get letter A. For number 2, it says what is the volume for this one? Well, you just have to multiply again these 3 numbers in your calculator. And in your calculator, you probably want to change 3 3/4 into 3.75. To do that, you just divide by 4 in your calculator, and it gives you the decimal. So once I multiply all those, I should be getting C. Okay, on the last one, you're again finding the volume. So remember, this is length times width times height divided by 2, since it is a triangular prism. So again, you're going to probably want to change these into decimals by dividing the fraction. So for 4 1/3, I get 4, erase this a little bit, I get 4 3/10 repeating. And for 6 2/3, I get 6.6 repeating. When I multiply those in my calculator and divide by 2, I get letter B. Alright, let's move on to the next page. Sorry, kind of slow at this. It's for number 4. This is where you have to find the missing dimension. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with your formula for a triangular prism. You're going to enter the numbers you know. So I know my volume's 13. I know my length is 2.6 times the width of 4. Right? And we're missing the height. Okay, it really doesn't matter which one I'm missing, but we still solve it the same way. So I have this part set up right there. To solve it now, this is where I have to undo my equation and solve. So I'm going to multiply by 2 to both sides. Remember, this all cancels out. On the left side, I'm left with 26, which is 2 times 13. And that equals 2.6 times 4 times the height. So my next step would be to simplify, which means I'm going to multiply 2.6 times 4. Okay, I'm going to get 10.4 times the height is equal to 26. So now from here, it's just solve like any other equation. Since it's 10.4 times h, I divide by 10.4. And if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. And I get that the h equals 2.5. So when I write my answer over here, it should be 2.5 centimeters. Right? Took up a lot of the room here for the next problem. So for this, I have to find the surface area. So I'm going to erase some of that work. You can always go back in the video if you need to see it. So for surface area, you could draw an F if you needed, but I like to just pair up the different dimensions. So I have an 8 by 2 face. I know there's 2 of them. I have a 8 by 6 face. I know there's 2 of those. And I also have a 6 by 2. And there'll be 2 of those, because that's like the bottom and the top. So now it's just a big math problem. So 8 times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. 8 times 6 is 48, times 2 is 96. And 6 times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24. Then I just add those all up. And there's my answer. When I write it, I make sure I label it. It's 120 or 152 inches squared. Okay, the next one says how many cubes would the container hold, or what is the volume? And that's just length times width times height, which is 96, and then it's inches cubed. Inches. Alright, next page. Alright, so the first thing you had to do on this one was draw the folds and label the faces on the net. So to draw the folds, you probably just would be putting some lines right about here. Try to get them in the right spot to show where the box would fold up. You were then supposed to label on there the faces. So call this my bottom, that's my back, front, top, left, right. So the dimensions of the box mean length, width, and height if I were to fold this up. So to find that, what I do is I look, this will be my length, this red line. Count that, that's 7. The blue line is going to be like my width, which is 2. and then the yellow line is going to be like the height, which is 3. So for the next part, I need a surface area. I'm just going to pair up my numbers again. I can do like a 7 by 2. Well, there's 2 of those. 7 by 3. There's 2 of those. And the 2 by 3. 2 of those. Okay, I can do my big math problem again. Another way to check would be, if you wanted, you could just count all the squares here. That might take a little more time, but if I do the math problem here, see, add these all up, you should be getting 82 centimeters squared. For the bottom part, it says what is the volume of the box. So as long as I have the right dimensions up here, just doing 7 times 2 times 3, getting 42 centimeters cubed. Right, here we go, page 4. Remember, if I go too fast, make sure to go back, rewatch the video, or pause it and correct your quiz. Okay, for number 7, how many faces, edges, and vertices are there? So for faces, I always think about, like, that's a face there on the top, on the left, and there's some that are hidden right now, so I just have to think. There's top, bottom, left, right, and then top, bottom, left, right, front, back. So there's always 6 faces. For my edges, I'm going to do these in red. That's like the lines that make this up. So I have 4 there. Okay, I go to the top, go to the side, and then I have to kind of think of ones that are behind it. If you need help doing this, it's always good to look at a rectangular prism, maybe a box in the room, or one of my models up front if you come and ask. But if you do this carefully, I'll go back here and you count, there should be 12 edges. Okay, if you look, there's like 4 on the top, there's 4 that go on the sides, and then there's 4 on the bottom. So for vertices, I always circle. That's like the corner of the box, and you should have 8 of those. Okay, for the next part, you have to draw the net for that prism up above. If you notice, the bottom is started for you. So thing to check here is, as you unfold the front and back faces, you have to make sure they're 4 by 2s. My sides fold, and they should be 1 by 2s, and then I still need the top, so it's going to fold off and be the same as the bottom. So I'm supposed to label the dimensions, meaning I should put some of the numbers that make this up. Okay, I don't need every single number, but I need to at least label some of them so I can do the problem. So for surface area, again, you can just pair up the dimensions. Like I have a 4 by 2, 2 of those. I have a 4 by 1, 2 of those, and a 2 by 1, and again 2 of those. Or I can just count all the boxes that are on my net. If I do it carefully, I should be getting 28 centimeters squared. Okay, and actually we could call these, because I call them centimeters, I would call these units, because there are no units specified, so units squared. So for my volume, as long as I have a picture up here, I can look and see there's my length, there's my width, and height. I'm just doing 2 times 4 times 1, which is equal to 8 units cubed. Right, next page. Right, the triangular prism page. This was a little bit tougher for a lot of people. So the first thing is to draw the net. So we're starting with the bottom that's already drawn for us. And if I look here, the bottom is this blue face there. So I'm going to think about this red face folding down. Okay, and I look, it's 4, so it has to fold and be 4 long. Okay, I'm going to make the yellow one, this rectangle here. If I look, it's 5, it's going to fold this way. So I have to fold and make sure it's 5. Okay, all I'm left with now are the 2 triangles. And if I look, my right triangle here, just made it blue, it would fold down and have to make sure that it's 4 right there as well as there, so that it will line up with the rectangular face, which is red, which is also 4. Okay, so that would be our correct net. When it says to label dimensions, again, you have to label a few of the sides here. You don't need every single thing labeled, but I'm just putting some of my dimensions on there. So now to find the surface area, okay, I can use my net up there. I can do a work, but what I just have to check and make sure I do is divide those triangles by 2. So if I look, I have a rectangle. It's 5 by 1. I have a small rectangle. That's 3 by 1. I have another rectangle. That's 4 by 1. So those should be pretty easy. And then if I look, I have the 2 triangles, and those are 3 by 4s, but you have to divide them by 2. So each triangle is 6, but then there are 2 of them. So I'm going to times it by 2. So my triangles are 12. And then for these, I'm just going to add up, that's a 3, those areas. As long as I do this correctly, you should be getting 28 units squared for your surface area. Alright, let's see. There was one more on the bottom. For some reason I cut it off. It's asking for the... Oh, we are good. Okay. I have a typo there as well. That should be... I was looking at the wrong page. There should be 24 units squared for that one. Okay, on to the last page. So for this one, just have a picture of it. So for letter A, you were supposed to get Sam is correct. So your answer should have that in there because the question says use words and numbers to explain which student is correct. So Sam is correct, and up above I showed the work. The thing I saw a lot of people forget to do was they were finding the volume when you have to find the surface area instead. So the surface area for the triangular prism should be 33, and the cube should be 54. So as long as you have the math and the correct answers to prove it, you should be able to say Sam is right. And then down on the bottom for the bonus, okay, I got 340 inches squared. The work you can see is the bottom's a square, so it's a 10 by 10 right there. And then I have 4 triangles, that's why there's a 4 here. And each triangle is a 10 by 12, so I have to make sure I do 10 times 12 divided by 2. And then I can just add up all my area. But that's a bonus because we did not spend a lot of time on triangular prisms, but you might understand them if you get, or pyramids, you might understand them though, right? So make sure you have corrections done, and good luck on the final tomorrow.